My name is Hayley Wilson. I'm 16 years old, and Halloween has always been sacred in our family until this year. I was planning my costume when Mom walked in and casually dropped a bomb. "We're canceling Halloween this year, too expensive." Her words hit me like a physical blow. I nodded, trying to be mature about our family's financial struggles. Then, while borrowing her laptop for homework, a notification popped up. Confirmation for 6 tickets to Arizona. 6 tickets that didn't include me. In that moment, I realized this wasn't about money at all, it was about excluding me. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. If family betrayal stories strike a chord with you, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life drama and resilience stories. Stick around to see how I transformed the worst betrayal into the most unforgettable Halloween of my life. Halloween in the Wilson household wasn't just a holiday, it was our family's crowning achievement of the year. Since I was tiny, our home transformed into the neighborhood's premier haunted attraction. Dad spent weeks crafting mechanical monsters in the garage, while Mom designed intricate themed rooms that left trick-or-treaters simultaneously terrified and delighted. My earliest memories include helping Dad paint foam tombstones and learning Mom's secret recipe for bloody caramel apples that neighborhood parents actually trusted their kids to eat. This year, I'd been planning something extraordinary. My best friend Zoe and I had spent months designing elaborate Victorian vampire costumes, complete with hand-sewn corsets and vintage lace we'd hunted down at 3 different thrift stores. We'd practiced special effects makeup techniques from YouTube tutorials until our fingers cramped. This Halloween was supposed to be our masterpiece before senior year consumed our lives with college applications. "We're going for authentically Victorian, not Party City vampire," I explained to Zoe as we stitched lace to our collars during lunch break. "The devil's in the historical details. The neighborhood kids are going to lose their minds when they see the full effect with the lighting," Zoe agreed, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Our family's haunted house had become such a tradition that neighborhood children marked their calendars for it. Last year, over 200 people had wandered through our transformed home, Dad playing Dracula in the foyer while Mom handed out her famous caramel apples in the kitchen. My younger siblings, Lucas and Emma, played creepy twin ghosts in the hallway, perfecting their synchronized movements to maximize the scare factor. The financial struggles hadn't come out of nowhere. Mom lost her paralegal job 3 months ago when her law firm downsized. Dad had been picking up extra shifts at the hospital where he worked as a respiratory therapist, often coming home with dark circles under his eyes. I'd heard whispered conversations about bills and noticed the thermostat set lower than usual despite the autumn chill. Still, we'd always managed to make Halloween happen, often using creativity to compensate for budget constraints. The dinner when Mom made her announcement seemed ordinary at first. Dad had prepared his specialty pasta, and we were all seated around the dining table, a rare occurrence with his schedule lately. "I have something to discuss," Mom said, putting down her fork with an air of finality. "We're canceling Halloween this year. We simply can't afford all the decorations, costumes, and candy." Lucas dropped his fork with a clatter. "But Mom, I've been practicing my zombie walk for weeks." Emma's eyes immediately welled with tears. "What about trick-or-treating? That's free." "We're not doing any of it this year," Mom replied, her tone leaving no room for discussion. "Sometimes families need to make sacrifices." Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat, staring at his pasta. "Your mother's right, kids. We need to tighten our belts this year." When I asked about the haunted house tradition and all our neighbors who were counting on us, Mom simply shook her head. "They'll understand. Everyone has financial setbacks." Something about her vagueness triggered my suspicion. Normally, Mom would have detailed exactly how much we would save and what bills that money would go toward. She was always practical that way. This explanation felt different, rehearsed, almost. "What about the costumes Zoe and I have been making?" "We've already spent money on materials," I pointed out. "You can save them for next year," Mom suggested with an artificial brightness that didn't reach her eyes, "or for a convention or something." I nodded, swallowing my disappointment. At 16, I understood financial hardship better than Lucas and Emma. If my parents couldn't afford Halloween, I could accept that even if it broke my heart a little. 2 days later, I needed to research a history project. My laptop was acting up, so Mom lent me hers. As I opened a browser window, an email notification popped up from Southwest Airlines. Your upcoming trip to Phoenix, confirmation. Curious, I clicked it. There it was in black and white. 6 round-trip tickets to Phoenix, Arizona for Halloween weekend. 6 tickets for Mom, Dad, Lucas, Emma, Aunt Karen, and Uncle Dave. 6 tickets that cost nearly $2,000. 6 tickets that didn't include me. I stared at the confirmation email, reading it repeatedly to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. The departure date was October 30th, with a return on November 1st, effectively spanning all of Halloween. My stomach nodded as I processed what this meant. It wasn't that Halloween was too expensive, it was that I wasn't included in whatever alternative plans my family had made. Scrolling through Mom's email history revealed more details. The trip centered around my cousin Amber's Sweet 16 celebration at some luxury resort in Scottsdale called Desert Palms Oasis. According to the emails, Aunt Karen had rented out the resort's private event space for a weekend celebration under the stars that included a professional DJ, catering, and even a special appearance by a minor social media celebrity Amber followed. My cousin Amber and I had once been close when we were little, but things had changed dramatically in recent years. As Uncle Dave's business took off, Aunt Karen embraced a lifestyle focused on appearances and status. Amber transformed from my playmate into someone almost unrecognizable, constantly posting carefully filtered photos on Instagram, name-dropping expensive brands, and developing an entourage of equally status-conscious friends. The last family gathering 8 months ago had ended disastrously for me. During dinner, Amber accidentally spilled cranberry juice all over my new white sweater after I'd received compliments from relatives. Later, I overheard her laughing with her sister about it. When I confronted her, she denied it was intentional, and somehow I ended up looking like the dramatic one for even suggesting it. Opening a new tab, I checked Amber's Instagram. Her latest post featured her posing in front of a desert backdrop with the caption, T-2 weeks until the most exclusive Sweet 16 weekend. Can't wait to see my favorite people. You know who you are, envy-only desert vibes, Sweet 16 and scene. I scrolled back through Mom's emails, and my blood ran cold when I found a thread between her and Aunt Karen with the subject line the situation with Hayley. Opening it revealed a conversation that confirmed my worst fears. I completely understand your position, Karen, Mom had written. Hayley and Amber haven't been getting along, and it would be uncomfortable for everyone. We'll make arrangements for Hayley to stay home. Aunt Karen's reply was equally disturbing. Thanks for understanding, Diane. Amber's been planning this for a year, and after what happened at Easter, I think it's best. We're only able to cover 6 guests at the resort anyway. My hands trembled as I closed the laptop. The family wasn't canceling Halloween, they were replacing it with a trip to Arizona that explicitly excluded me. All the talk about financial struggles was just a convenient excuse. That evening, I couldn't maintain my composure any longer. As Mom unloaded the dishwasher, I confronted her directly. So when were you going to tell me about Arizona? I asked, my voice cracking despite my efforts to sound calm. Mom froze, a plate suspended midair. You went through my emails? Her deflection was immediate, focusing on my alleged invasion of privacy rather than her deception. I saw a notification when I was using your laptop, I clarified. For the trip that's apparently replacing our too expensive Halloween. Dad walked in at that moment, his face falling as he registered the conversation topic. Hayley, we were going to tell you. When? The day you left? I interrupted. Were Lucas and Emma going to pretend to be surprised too? We couldn't afford to take everyone, Mom said weakly. But you could afford 6 tickets to Arizona and a resort stay? I countered. Karen's covering most of the accommodations, Mom explained, as if that made everything better. You're too old for Halloween anyway, Mom added dismissively. I thought you'd appreciate having the house to yourself for the weekend. I looked at Dad, silently pleading for him to say something that made sense, to offer some explanation that didn't make me feel completely betrayed. He just looked at the floor, his silence confirming his complicity. So you lied to me, I said quietly. You made up financial problems instead of just telling me I wasn't welcome at Amber's party. It's complicated, Hayley, Dad finally spoke. Sometimes adult decisions— Don't, I interrupted, tears threatening. Don't pretend this is some adult decision I'm too young to understand. This is about not wanting to deal with Aunt Karen if you insisted on bringing me. I walked out and locked myself in my bedroom, the truth settling over me like a heavy blanket. Halloween wasn't too expensive. I wasn't wanted. That night, voices drifted up from downstairs as my parents argued in hushed but intense tones. I sat at the top of the stairs, knees pulled to my chest, straining to hear their conversation. "We should have just told her the truth from the beginning," Dad insisted, frustration evident in his voice. Now she feels completely betrayed. And what exactly was I supposed to say? "Sorry, Hayley, your aunt doesn't want you at her precious daughter's party because you two don't get along?" Mom's voice was defensive. Karen would be offended if we didn't all come, but she made it clear Hayley wasn't welcome after what happened at Easter. "That was blown completely out of proportion," Dad countered. "Amber was just as responsible for that argument as Hayley was." "It doesn't matter now," Mom sighed. "Karen is paying for most of this trip, and she only reserved rooms for 6. We can't afford another ticket and room even if we wanted to add Hayley now." Their voices dropped lower, and I retreated to my room, a new realization dawning. This conspiracy went beyond my parents. If the trip had been planned for weeks, Lucas and Emma must have known too. The next morning, I cornered Emma in the bathroom as she brushed her teeth. At 8 years old, my sister had never been good at keeping secrets. "Emma, did you know about the Arizona trip?" I asked directly. Toothpaste dribbled down her chin as her eyes widened with guilt. "Mom said not to tell you," she mumbled around her toothbrush. "Why not?" Emma rinsed her mouth, avoiding my gaze. "She said you'd be upset because you couldn't come." After a pause, she added in a small voice, "I'm excited about the water park at the resort." The betrayal deepened. Not only had my parents lied, but they'd enlisted my siblings in the deception. Lucas was harder to crack. At 10, he'd recently entered a phase where he thought displaying emotion was uncool. I found him playing video games in his room and sat on his bed. "So, Arizona, huh?" I said casually. He shrugged without looking away from his screen. "Yeah, whatever." "Did Mom tell you why I'm not going?" His fingers paused on the controller momentarily. "She said you wouldn't be interested anyway, that it was just some stupid girly sweet 16 thing. And you didn't think it was weird that we're supposedly canceling Halloween because of money but going on this trip?" Lucas finally looked at me, discomfort evident on his face. "Mom said Aunt Karen is paying for it, so it's not costing us anything. She said we shouldn't make you feel bad about not being invited." The pieces were falling into place. Mom had created different narratives for each of us financial struggles for me. A girly party for Lucas, excitement for Emma, all to avoid the uncomfortable truth that I was being deliberately excluded. Over the next few days, I paid closer attention to our family finances. Despite claimed money troubles, Mom had purchased a new Michael Kors handbag just 2 weeks ago. Dad had mentioned cutting back on expenses, yet I noticed the latest golf clubs in his car trunk. The financial hardship narrative applied selectively only to things I cared about. Going through old photo albums in the attic revealed another pattern. In earlier family photos, we all appeared genuinely happy together. But recent years showed a shift, more pictures featuring Mom with Aunt Karen at various events. Mom's clothing and accessories gradually becoming more expensive looking. More posed Instagram-worthy photos and fewer candid family moments. One particular photo struck me, Mom beaming beside Aunt Karen at some charity gala, both wearing designer dresses. It was dated just 1 week after Mom had told me we couldn't afford the SAT prep course I'd asked for. The final confirmation came when I discovered Mom's secret Nordstrom credit card statement accidentally mixed in with college brochures on Dad's desk. The statement showed thousands in recent purchases, despite her claims about tightening budgets. That evening, Lucas let something slip during dinner. "Mom, did you pack my new swimming trunks for Arizona?" Mom shot him a warning look, but the damage was done. Emma chimed in excitedly, "And my unicorn floaty?" "We'll discuss packing later," Mom said tersely, glancing uncomfortably at me. The revelation that they were actively packing and planning while maintaining the charade of financial hardship around me was the final straw. The too expensive excuse only applied to things I wanted, never to my siblings' desires or Mom's apparent shopping addiction. Most painful was recognizing Dad's role in all this. He'd always been my advocate, the parent I went to when Mom was being unreasonable. Now he sat silently complicit in this elaborate deception, occasionally throwing me apologetic glances but never actually standing up for me. I excused myself from dinner early, The weight of this second betrayal, learning my siblings were active participants in keeping me in the dark, settling heavily on my shoulders. Alone in my room that night, everything hit me at once. The careful deception, the family conspiracy, the casual dismissal of something I loved. I curled into a ball on my bed, sobs racking my body as I finally allowed myself to feel the full magnitude of the betrayal. I texted Zoe, my fingers trembling. Found out why Halloween got canceled. Family's going to Arizona for Amber's sweet 16. Without me, they've been lying for weeks. Her response was immediate. What the actual from? Are you serious? That's beyond messed up. They told Lucas and Emma but swore them to secrecy. Mom made up the whole too expensive thing just for me. That's emotional abuse, hey. My mom would never. Want me to come over? Not tonight, need to think. As I scrolled through our text conversation, memories flooded back of other times I'd been sidelined for Aunt Karen's approval. Last Thanksgiving, Mom had made me change my outfit right before dinner because Aunt Karen had made a passing comment about it being a bit much. The Christmas before, my gift request for art supplies had been denied as impractical, while Aunt Karen's children received expensive electronics. Mom had always been susceptible to Aunt Karen's influence, but it had grown worse over the years. Aunt Karen represented the lifestyle Mom aspired to: wealthy, socially connected, and image-conscious. Somehow, I had become collateral damage in Mom's pursuit of her sister's approval. Dad was no better. He might disagree with Mom in private, but publicly he backed her decisions every time. His conflict-avoidant nature meant he'd rather let me be hurt than stand up to Mom or Aunt Karen. The next morning, I tried one more time to reason with Mom. I found her sorting laundry and approached with as much maturity as I could muster. Mom, can we talk about the Arizona trip? She sighed dramatically. There's nothing to discuss, Hayley. The arrangements are made. I just want to understand why you lied about it. If Aunt Karen doesn't want me there, you could have just said that. Don't be dramatic, she dismissed. Not everything is about you. This trip is about supporting Amber on her special day. By canceling our family Halloween tradition? The one thing I look forward to all year? You're being selfish, she snapped. Halloween is for children. You're 16 now, it's time to grow up and stop expecting everything to revolve around your wants. It's not about Halloween, I insisted, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. It's about you lying and excluding me from a family trip. That's enough, Mom's face flushed with anger. Your attitude is exactly why Karen thought it would be better if you stayed home, always making everything into a bigger drama than it needs to be. Dad walked in then, catching the end of our argument. Let's all calm down. No, I interrupted. I want to know if you're okay with this, Dad. Are you okay with excluding one child from a family trip and lying about why? His uncomfortable silence was answer enough. Either everyone stays home for Halloween, or I'm telling the entire family how you've treated me, I declared, surprising myself with the ultimatum. Mom's eyes narrowed. Are you threatening us? Because I can ground you for the rest of the year if you want to play that game. Dad placed a hand on her arm. Diane, maybe we should… No, Mark, she cut him off. I'm not letting a teenager dictate our plans. I stormed back to my room, slamming the door with a force that rattled the family photos hanging in the hallway. Later that evening, Dad knocked tentatively on my door. Hayley, can I come in? I didn't answer, but he entered anyway, sitting awkwardly on the edge of my bed. I'm sorry about all this, he said softly. It's a complicated situation. It's really not, I replied coldly. Either I'm part of this family or I'm not. Of course you're part of the family, he insisted. Your mother just gets caught up in Karen's world sometimes. She doesn't mean to hurt you. But she does hurt me, Dad, and you let her. He winced at the truth of it. I'll talk to her again, he promised, reaching out to squeeze my shoulder. Don't bother, I said, pulling away. You've already shown me where I stand. After he left, the full weight of the third betrayal settled over me. In this family, my voice didn't matter. My feelings were inconvenient. My presence was negotiable. Something broke inside me then, but from that breakage came clarity. If my family didn't want me included in their plans, I would make my own. They've left you no choice, Zoe declared the next day as we sat in her treehouse, our childhood refuge now serving as conspiracy headquarters. We need to make this the best Halloween ever without them. Her righteous indignation on my behalf was exactly what I needed. We spent hours brainstorming, our ideas evolving from petty revenge scenarios to something more meaningful. What if, I suggested, thinking aloud, we created our own haunted house? Not just for us, but for all the neighborhood kids who'll be disappointed about my family's cancellation? Zoe's eyes lit up. We could take over the tradition ourselves. Show your family what they're missing and give the community something amazing. We started researching locations, knowing my house wasn't an option. The ideal venue needed to be large enough for multiple scare zones, accessible to the neighborhood, and available for free or very cheap. What about asking the neighbors if we could use their yards, like a progressive haunted house experience through the block? Zoe suggested. Or, I said, a new idea forming, what if we contacted the other families who always participate in neighborhood Halloween events? Create something collaborative? The plan expanded quickly. I created a private social media group called Community Halloween Revival and invited neighbors who'd always supported our family's Halloween traditions. The response was overwhelming. Our kids would be devastated if Halloween was canceled this year. Count us in, we can contribute decorations and help set up. My husband has professional sound equipment we could use. I was careful not to explicitly mention being excluded from the family trip, framing it instead as stepping up when my family had to cancel our tradition. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about creating something meaningful from a painful situation. My old babysitter Casey, now working as an event planner, messaged me privately. Heard about your Halloween project. I might have the perfect venue. The old Simmons barn at the edge of the neighborhood is empty. The new owners haven't decided what to do with it yet, but I'm friends with their daughter. Want me to ask if we can use it? The Simmons barn was perfect. A legitimate abandoned barn that with the right decoration could become the ultimate haunted house. When Casey secured permission, our plans suddenly had real potential. As word spread, community support grew. Parents volunteered supplies, teenagers offered to be scare actors, and several adults with construction experience committed to ensuring the barn would be safe for visitors. Throughout all this, I maintained normal behavior at home. I didn't mention Halloween or show any signs of planning something. This took considerable effort, especially as Mom became increasingly suspicious of my apparent acceptance of the situation. You seem better about everything, she commented tentatively one evening. I'm glad you're being mature about this. I shrugged noncommittally, just focused on school stuff. Dad, riddled with guilt, started offering unexpected gifts, extra allowance, a new sweater, permission to extend my weekend curfew. I accepted these peace offerings with calculated appreciation, quietly using the extra money to buy supplies for our Halloween event. Every day after school, Zoe and I visited the barn to develop our plan. We mapped out scare zones, designed traffic flow patterns, and created prop lists. My years of helping with the family haunted house had taught me valuable skills: how to create atmosphere, build simple mechanical scares, and develop a cohesive theme. We should document everything, Zoe suggested. Take before, during, and after photos to show what you accomplished. I was carefully constructing a paper trail of the family's deception, as well as screenshots of the ticket confirmation, copies of Mom's too expensive texts juxtaposed with her recent purchases, recordings of conversations where the Arizona trip was mentioned, not to use immediately, but to have if needed. The emotional toll of maintaining this double life was considerable. During the day, I played the role of the daughter who had accepted her exclusion. At night, I poured my hurt and betrayal into creating something spectacular. It was exhausting, but also empowering. Casey proved invaluable, lending her professional expertise to our amateur production. You've got a real talent for this, she told me after reviewing my plans. The narrative flow through the barn is better than some professional haunts I've worked on. When Mr. Patterson, who owned a local construction company, volunteered to reinforce some questionable areas of the barn, our project took on new legitimacy. My kids have been going to your family's Halloween thing for years, he explained. Wouldn't feel right not to help when you're stepping up like this. The barn was gradually transformed. Cobwebs stretched across ancient beams, strategically placed lights created eerie shadows, and hand-built props populated each section. We created a story about the fictional Blackwood family who had once owned the farm, incorporating local legends and creating a backstory that would give our actors motivation for their scares. One unexpected challenge arose when Mom discovered a Halloween supply receipt in my pocket while doing laundry. "What's this?" she questioned, waving the paper. Halloween supplies? For a school project, I lied smoothly. We're studying cultural traditions in anthropology. She seemed suspicious but didn't push further. Dad noticed my late nights working on homework and offered to help. You seem stressed, kiddo. Anything I can do? The concern in his eyes almost broke my resolve. Almost. I'm good, Dad. Just busy with school stuff. As the Arizona trip grew closer and packing commenced in earnest, household tension increased. Mom was irritable, Dad was guilt-ridden, and my siblings vacillated between excitement about the trip and discomfort around me. Through it all, my determination only strengthened. What had started as revenge had evolved into something more important, proving to myself that I could create something meaningful even when my family had deemed me disposable. The community Halloween project wasn't just about getting back at my family anymore. It was about finding my own voice and power in a situation where I'd been silenced and sidelined. The week before Halloween transformed our home into a minefield of tension. Suitcases appeared in hallways, summer clothes were excavated for the Arizona heat, and travel-sized toiletries accumulated on bathroom counters. Each visible reminder of the trip they'd lied about felt like a fresh betrayal. Mom's behavior became increasingly erratic as departure approached. She vacillated between ignoring me completely and making awkward attempts at connection, possibly motivated by guilt. I bought you some frozen dinners for while we're gone, she announced one evening, as though providing microwave meals somehow made up for excluding me from a family trip. Thanks, I replied neutrally, maintaining my facade of acceptance. Dad was even worse, hovering around me with sad puppy eyes whenever Mom wasn't looking. We'll FaceTime you from Arizona, he offered lamely one morning. Don't worry about it, I responded, the double meaning lost on him. They wouldn't be able to FaceTime me because I'd be far too busy with plans of my own. Lucas and Emma seemed confused by the household's emotional undercurrents. Emma kept offering to bring me back souvenirs, while Lucas vacillated between excitement about the trip and awkward silence around me. The resort has 5 pools, Emma told me while I helped her with homework, and a special kids' water playground with slides. Sounds fun, I said, swallowing my hurt for her sake. She was only 8, this wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, cousin Amber's social media became increasingly unbearable. Her latest post showed her posing with shopping bags from expensive stores with the caption, "Sweet 16 shopping spree." Can't wait to show my fam the party outfits I've picked, blessed desert vibes. The comments section was filled with her friends discussing the exclusive guest list and speculating about the celebrity surprise Aunt Karen had supposedly arranged. The materialism and superficiality of it all made me even more determined to create something meaningful with our Halloween project. On Tuesday evening, I overheard Mom on the phone with Aunt Karen, their voices carrying from the kitchen to my eavesdropping position in the hallway. No, the Hayley situation is handled, Mom was saying. She's accepted she's staying home. Of course I didn't tell her that. No, Mark almost wavered, but I reminded him how much you're spending on this weekend. Yes, all packed and ready. The casual way they discussed me as a situation to be handled sent a fresh wave of hurt through me. In Aunt Karen's world, and increasingly in Mom's, I was simply an inconvenience to be managed, not a person with feelings that mattered. That night, I slipped out to meet Zoe and Casey at the barn for final preparations. The transformation was breathtaking. String lights created ethereal pathways through the structure, homemade props populated each scare zone, and the sound system Mr. Patterson's son had installed allowed for zone-specific audio effects. This is professional quality, Casey marveled as we conducted a walkthrough. Seriously, Hayley, you could charge admission for this. That's not the point, I replied, though her praise warmed me. It's about giving the neighborhood the Halloween they were expecting. When I returned home, Mom was waiting up, arms crossed and expression suspicious. Where have you been? She demanded. It's a school night. Study group at the library? I lied, the deception coming easily after weeks of practice. AP Chem test tomorrow. Your clothes smell like dust, she observed. Libraries aren't usually dusty. We were in the reference section with the old books, I countered smoothly. Lots of dust back there. Her eyes narrowed. You've been acting strange lately, too accepting of everything. What are you planning, Hayley? Nothing, Mom. I maintained my innocent expression, just focusing on school while you guys enjoy Arizona. Her suspicion wasn't entirely unfounded. Despite my careful efforts to hide our Halloween preparations, evidence had accumulated mysterious phone calls, unexplained absences, hushed conversations with Zoe that stopped when family members approached. The next morning, disaster nearly struck. Mom found the community Halloween group chat open on my phone when she borrowed it to make a call. "What's this about a Halloween event?" she confronted me, waving my phone. "Are you planning something behind our backs?" "It's just a small thing some friends are doing," I downplayed. "Since our family canceled, I thought I'd help out elsewhere." "After all the discussions we've had about financial priorities? You're deliberately undermining our family decision." Dad intervened before I could respond. "Diane, if Hayley wants to participate in Halloween with friends, that seems reasonable. She's not asking us for money." Mom turned her anger toward him. "So now you're taking her side? After all the work I've done coordinating with Karen to make this trip special for the family?" "I'm not taking sides," Dad backpedaled immediately. You just think it's easier to give in to her than stand united with me," Mom snapped. As usual, their argument escalated into a full-blown fight that sent Lucas and Emma scurrying to their rooms. I retreated as well, listening to the muffled accusations through my door. "This is exactly what Karen warned me about," Mom's voice carried. "Hayley deliberately trying to ruin Amber's birthday because she's jealous she wasn't invited." "That's ridiculous," Dad countered with uncharacteristic force. "She's a kid who loves Halloween, trying to salvage something you took away from her." Their argument continued for nearly an hour before settling into tense silence. Later, Mom knocked on my door, her expression tight with barely controlled anger. "I've made a decision," she announced. "Either you come with us to Arizona and behave appropriately at Amber's party, or there will be serious consequences when we return. I'm talking no phone, no friends, no activities until Christmas at minimum." I met her gaze steadily. "I'm not going where I'm not wanted." This attitude is exactly why Karen thought— "Why Aunt Karen thought what?" I interrupted. "That I wasn't good enough to attend precious Amber's party? That I would somehow ruin everything by existing in her presence?" "You don't understand adult relationships," Mom dismissed. "I understand enough," I replied with newfound confidence. "I understand that you value Aunt Karen's approval more than your relationship with me. I understand that you're willing to lie to me rather than stand up for me, and I understand that in this family, I'm optional." The truth of my words hung in the air between us. For a brief moment, something like recognition flickered in Mom's eyes before her defenses slammed back into place. "Be ready to leave for the airport Friday morning or face the consequences," she stated flatly before walking out. That night, the family fractured along invisible fault lines. Dad slept in the guest room, Lucas and Emma whispered worriedly to each other, and Mom busied herself with aggressive packing. No one spoke during dinner, the silence punctuated only by the clinking of silverware on plates. The fourth betrayal had crystallized with painful clarity. Mom valued Aunt Karen's approval over my happiness. My place in the family hierarchy had been officially established dead last. Friday morning arrived with a flurry of last-minute packing and tense conversations. I remained in my bedroom as the family prepared to leave, having made my decision clear to Mom the night before. She had responded with icy silence and promises of serious consequences upon their return. Around 9, a soft knock on my door preceded Dad poking his head in. "We're heading to the airport now," he said, his expression conflicted. "There's money on your desk for food. Please be careful while we're gone." I nodded without looking up from my book, maintaining the pretense that I would be spending a quiet weekend alone. After the front door closed and cars pulled away, I waited 30 minutes to ensure they wouldn't return for forgotten items before springing into action. On my desk lay $500 in cash, Dad's guilt manifest in an excessive food allowance. The irony wasn't lost on me. The Halloween they'd deemed too expensive had just been partially funded by Dad's guilty conscience. I texted Zoe, "Operation Halloween is officially a go. They're gone." Within an hour, my best friend arrived with her parents, who had become enthusiastic supporters of our project. Mr. Howard brought his pickup truck loaded with the remaining supplies we needed for the barn. "Your dad left you quite the guilt money," Zoe observed, eyeing the cash on my desk. "Enough for pizza for all our volunteers tonight?" "Absolutely," I agreed. "Seems fitting to use it for Halloween after all." The empty house felt strange, simultaneously lonely and liberating. As I gathered my costume and makeup supplies, I discovered something else Dad had left. A small Halloween-themed gift bag containing my favorite candy and a handwritten note, "Proud of you always." Love, Dad. The gesture, while touching, felt insufficient given his complicity in my exclusion. I tucked the note into my pocket anyway, a complicated emotion tugging at my heart. Arriving at the Simmons barn that afternoon was like stepping into an alternate reality where I wasn't the excluded family member but the central creative force behind something important. Volunteers were already assembling, neighborhood parents setting up refreshment tables, teenagers getting into costume, and Mr. Patterson's crew making final safety checks. "There's our mastermind," Casey called as I entered. "Come see what we finished last night." The transformation was even more impressive in daylight. Each scare zone told part of the Blackwood family story we'd created. From the eerie entrance featuring family portraits, vintage frames filled with distorted photographs of volunteers, to the hayloft converted into an abandoned nursery, complete with spectral sounds of children playing. Throughout the afternoon, our volunteer team grew as word spread. Parents brought additional decorations, local businesses donated refreshments, and even my English teacher appeared with professionally printed programs outlining the haunted barn's fictional history. "This is remarkable community organizing, Hayley," she commented as I showed her around. "Colleges look for exactly this kind of leadership initiative." Around 6 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. "Landed in Phoenix. Everything okay at home?" I hesitated before responding with a simple, "all good," and a thumbs up emoji. No need to reveal my plans just yet. As evening approached and final preparations were completed, I changed into my Victorian vampire costume. Zoe and I helped each other with elaborate makeup, transforming into the characters we'd spent months preparing to embody. The result was genuinely unsettling, historically accurate, with just enough supernatural elements to create the perfect Halloween aesthetic. "Your family has no idea what they're missing," Zoe whispered as we surveyed the growing line of excited visitors outside the barn. Word had spread throughout the day, and it seemed the entire neighborhood had turned out for our event. At 7 sharp, we opened the doors to the first group of visitors. Their reactions exceeded even our optimistic expectations. Children squealed with delighted terror, teenagers were genuinely spooked by our more sophisticated scares, and parents expressed astonishment at the professional quality of the experience. Local media arrived unexpectedly. Apparently, someone had tipped off the community newspaper about our teen-organized charity Halloween event. We had decided to collect optional donations for the local food bank, adding a community service element that enhanced the project's legitimacy. "This is incredible," the reporter told me during a brief interview. "How did you pull this together in just a few weeks?" "It was truly a community effort," I explained, careful not to mention my family situation. When our traditional haunted house was canceled this year, neighbors stepped up to create something new. As the evening progressed, my phone filled with messages from Arizona. Lucas sent a photo of himself looking bored at Amber's pre-party dinner. Emma texted that it was not as fun as Halloween. Most surprisingly, Dad's messages became increasingly frequent and probing. "Are you sure everything's okay? You're being very brief. What are you up to tonight, watching scary movies?" "Amber's party is postponed until tomorrow. Unexpected rain in the desert." I responded minimally, not wanting to reveal our successful Halloween rebellion quite yet. Around 9 o'clock, my phone rang, Dad calling rather than texting. I let it go to voicemail, too busy managing the event to deal with family drama. His voicemail was unexpected. "Hayley, we made a mistake. I've booked a flight home tonight. Don't tell your mother yet." I played the message for Zoe, whose eyes widened. "He's coming back? Without telling your mom?" "Apparently," I replied, uncertain how to feel about this development. The event continued with remarkable success. By 10 o'clock, we had welcomed over 300 visitors, significantly more than our family haunted house had ever attracted. Social media was flooding with posts about the amazing community Halloween barn, many tagging me and the other organizers. Shortly after 11, as we were processing the final groups, a familiar figure appeared at the entrance. Dad, looking travel-worn and slightly disheveled, stood staring in amazement at what we'd created. "Hayley," he called, spotting me in my vampire finery, "what is all this?" Behind him, to my shock, stood Lucas and Emma, still wearing their airport clothes and looking around with expressions of wonder. I approached them cautiously, uncertain of their reaction. "What are you doing here?" "I couldn't do it," Dad said simply. I was sitting at dinner watching everyone have a miserable time because of the rain, and it hit me how wrong this all was. I booked us on the red-eye home. Does Mom know? I asked. He shook his head. She and Karen are still at the resort trying to salvage the party. I left her a note. Lucas tugged at my costume sleeve. This is way better than Arizona, he declared loyally. Can we still participate? Emma nodded eagerly. Please? We practiced our ghost routine and everything. The sincerity in their faces melted some of my resentment. They were kids caught in adult dysfunction, just as I was. There are spare costumes in the back, I told them, managing a genuine smile. Casey can help you get ready. As they raced off excitedly, Dad surveyed the spectacular event we'd created from scratch. Hayley, I don't know what to say. This is incredible. You don't need to say anything, I replied, the hurt still fresh despite his gesture of returning. You chose sides, Dad. Coming back at the last minute doesn't change that. You're right, he acknowledged, surprising me with his directness. I've been enabling your mother's behavior for years, and you've paid the price. I'm sorry, Hayley. Truly sorry. The simple apology, delivered without excuses or qualifications, reached something deep inside me. It didn't erase the hurt, but it created an opening for something new. The last group is about to go through, I said, gesturing toward the barn. Want to see what we created? Dad followed me through the haunted barn, his expression shifting from appreciation to genuine pride as volunteers explained how I had organized everything. This is better than anything we ever did, he admitted as we completed the circuit. You're remarkable, Hayley. In the distance, Lucas and Emma had already been incorporated into the final scare scene, their genuine enthusiasm bringing new energy to our closing hour. The night ended with volunteers celebrating our success, taking group photos, and making plans to return next year for Hayley's second annual community Halloween. As we drove home, Dad glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Your mother is going to be furious, he said matter-of-factly. I know, I replied, strangely calm about this inevitability. But this time, I won't be silent, he promised. It's time for some changes in our family. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope that perhaps the fifth betrayal, Dad's passive enabling of Mom's behavior, might be transformed into something healing instead. The community Halloween event exceeded even my wildest expectations. By midnight, over 400 people had experienced our haunted barn, nearly double the attendance our family haunted house had ever achieved. Local news coverage expanded beyond the community paper to include a segment on the regional evening news, with their videographer capturing footage of screaming teenagers and delighted children. What made the night truly special was how seamlessly everyone worked together. Volunteers who had started as strangers became a cohesive team, problem-solving on the fly when the fog machine overheated or when a particularly frightened child needed gentle reassurance. The barn, with its authentic weathered wood and creaking floors, provided a naturally atmospheric setting that our family's suburban home could never match. Lucas and Emma were incorporated into the production with remarkable speed, Casey helping them create improvised costumes from our surplus materials. They became the lost Blackwood children in our final scare zone, their performance so enthusiastic that several visitors commented specifically on how creepy those little kids at the end were. Throughout the evening, word of our event spread through social media. Teenagers from neighboring communities arrived in carloads, many expressing amazement that something so professional had been organized by a 16-year-old. Parents thanked me repeatedly for saving Halloween and ensuring their children wouldn't be disappointed. Dad remained quietly supportive in the background, helping direct parking and assisting with cleanup as the event wound down. His expression as he watched me coordinate volunteers and address last-minute challenges shifted from surprise to unmistakable pride. You're a natural leader, he commented, as I reorganized our final groups to accommodate a late-arriving family with small children. I had no idea. Maybe because you've never really seen me in action before, I replied without bitterness, simply stating a truth we both recognized. Around 1 a.m, after the last volunteers had departed and we were securing the barn, my phone exploded with notifications. Mom had apparently discovered Dad's note explaining his departure with Lucas and Emma, and her reaction was incandescent fury. "Where are you and the children?" her text read, followed by a dozen missed calls. Dad took my phone calmly. "I'll handle this," he said, stepping outside to return her call. While he dealt with the fallout, Lucas, Emma, and I sat on hay bales inside the barn, sharing leftover Halloween candy and reliving the night's highlights. The way you made that teenager scream when you appeared in the mirror was epic, I told Emma, who beamed with pride. And Lucas, your timing with the dropping spiders was perfect. This was way better than some dumb birthday party, Lucas declared loyally. Amber was just complaining about the rain ruining her hair anyway. Emma nodded in agreement. She didn't even like the present Mom spent forever picking out. She just put it aside without really looking at it. The casual revelation confirmed what I'd long suspected. Amber's appreciation never matched Mom's desperate efforts to please her. Dad returned looking weary but resolute. Your mother is taking the first flight back tomorrow, he informed us. Aunt Karen is not pleased. Are we in trouble? Emma asked in a small voice. Dad knelt beside her. No, sweetheart, I'm the one who made this decision, and I'll deal with the consequences. As we drove home in the early morning hours, my phone continued to ping with messages from classmates and neighbors praising the event. Even more surprisingly, several texts came from Lucas and Emma's friends who had attended, expressing sympathy about their forced Arizona trip and excitement about their unexpected return. Madison says everyone at school is talking about our Halloween barn, Emma reported from the back seat, scrolling through her messages. She says nobody cares about Amber's stupid Sweet 16. The news must have reached Arizona as well, because around 3 in the morning, I received a furious text from Amber herself. Way to make everything about you as usual. You've totally ruined my birthday weekend. I showed the message to Zoe, who had come home with us to spend the night. She snorted with laughter. Translation, you succeeded at something without her and she can't stand it. The most unexpected development came shortly after sunrise. Dad's phone rang, displaying the Arizona hotel's number. He answered cautiously, then listened with widening eyes. That was your mother, he reported after hanging up. Apparently, the resort is featuring our Halloween barn on their social media accounts as an example of community spirit. Someone from their marketing team saw the news coverage and recognized our name from their guest list. The irony was delicious. The very event Mom and Aunt Karen had tried to exclude me from was now being overshadowed by the alternative I'd created. Throughout the morning, reports trickled in from Arizona through Lucas and Emma's friends. Amber's outdoor party had been moved indoors due to unseasonable rain, the celebrity appearance had canceled at the last minute, and several guests had developed food poisoning from questionable catering. Meanwhile, our social media was flooded with photos and videos from the community Halloween event, each post generating dozens of positive comments and shares. The local food bank reported receiving over $2,000 in donations collected during our event, an unexpected charitable success. Around noon, Dad's phone rang again. After a brief conversation, he looked at me with a strange mix of amusement and admiration. Your mother and Aunt Karen are cutting the Arizona trip short. They'll be home tonight. He paused before adding, apparently Aunt Karen is furious that the family embarrassment has gone viral while Amber's party was a disaster. The phrasing stung despite my overall success. Is that what they call me, the family embarrassment? Dad's expression softened. I should have stood up to them long ago, Hayley. That ends today. True to his word, when Mom's taxi arrived from the airport that evening, Dad met her at the door with an uncharacteristic firmness. Before you say anything, he stated as she stormed into the house, you need to see what your daughter accomplished while you were trying to exclude her. He pulled up the news coverage on his tablet, showing Mom footage of the professional quality haunted attraction and interviews with community members praising the initiative. Mom's expression cycled through anger, confusion, and finally something approaching shame as she watched. You organized all this? She asked me, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. With help, I acknowledged. Turns out Halloween wasn't too expensive after all. It just required creativity instead of money. The pointed reference to her lie hung between us, neither acknowledged nor denied. I need to talk to your father, she said finally, retreating to their bedroom. Their conversation lasted for hours, voices occasionally rising before settling into intense discussion. Lucas, Emma, and I ordered pizza and watched Halloween movies in the living room, creating a bubble of normalcy amid the family earthquake. Before bed, Dad came to my room. Your mother and I have a lot to work through, he said honestly. "But I want you to know how proud I am of what you created. Not just the Halloween event itself, but the way you brought the community together." His sincere praise, delivered without qualification or reference to Mom's reaction, felt like the first step toward healing a wound I hadn't realized ran so deep. The next day's paper featured our Halloween barn on the front page, with the headline, "Teen-led Halloween event raises thousands for food bank." The accompanying photo showed me in my Victorian vampire costume, surrounded by volunteer team members, all of us grinning with exhausted triumph. As I added the newspaper to my growing collection of mementos from the night, I realized something profound had shifted. I had transformed my family's betrayal into something meaningful, not just for myself, but for hundreds of others. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had been repurposed into something powerful. The weeks following Halloween brought seismic shifts to our family dynamics. Mom and Dad entered marriage counseling, their first session revealing patterns of dysfunction that had developed so gradually none of us had fully recognized them. Dad's passive conflict avoidance had enabled Mom's increasing obsession with appearances and Aunt Karen's approval, creating a toxic family system where authenticity was sacrificed for surface harmony. For the first time, I was included in family discussions about these issues rather than being sheltered from them. At 16, I was old enough to understand that healing wouldn't happen overnight. Mom's initial defensiveness gradually gave way to uncomfortable self-awareness as she began to recognize how her behavior had affected me. "I never meant to make you feel excluded," she said during a particularly difficult conversation in our living room. "I just got so caught up in maintaining appearances that I lost sight of what matters." "You chose Aunt Karen over me," I replied simply, not to punish but to state a truth that needed acknowledgement. Mom flinched but didn't deny it. I did. I've spent years trying to meet her standards, and somehow I started imposing those same impossible standards on all of us. These conversations were painful but necessary. Dad participated more actively than I'd ever seen him, no longer retreating when tension arose. "I failed you by staying silent," he told me one evening while we worked on Halloween photo albums. "I thought I was keeping the peace, but I was actually teaching you that your feelings didn't matter enough for me to speak up." The path to rebuilding trust moved in fits and starts. Some days brought meaningful connection, others reignited old hurts. What mattered was that we were finally addressing the underlying patterns rather than papering over them. Lucas and Emma processed things in their own ways. Lucas became fiercely protective of me, challenging Mom when she slipped into old patterns. Emma created elaborate drawings of our family, often depicting us in Halloween costumes, her way of reinforcing our reunified family identity. The community Halloween event had unexpected lasting impacts. Casey helped me compile documentation of the planning and execution process for my college applications, turning a response to family betrayal into a compelling example of leadership and community organizing. My English teacher encouraged me to write about the experience for my college essay. "Universities are looking for students who demonstrate resilience and creative problem-solving," she explained. "Your story shows both in abundance." The essay I ultimately wrote focused not on the betrayal but on the community building that resulted. How transforming personal disappointment into community connection taught me more about leadership than any formal position ever had. Several colleges responded with particular interest in this aspect of my application, one admissions officer commenting that the essay showed remarkable emotional intelligence and entrepreneurial spirit. Relations with extended family remained complicated. Aunt Karen maintained that I had deliberately sabotaged Amber's birthday, a narrative Mom no longer supported. This created tension between the sisters that occasionally flared into conflict, but for the first time, Mom prioritized defending me over placating her sister. Hayley didn't plan a community event to spite Amber, I overheard Mom telling Aunt Karen during a tense phone call. "She created something positive from a hurtful situation that we created." Amber herself maintained a chilly distance, occasionally making passive-aggressive social media posts that indirectly referenced the Halloween incident. I chose not to engage, recognizing that her behavior said more about her insecurities than about me. As Thanksgiving approached, Mom suggested we break tradition by hosting dinner ourselves rather than attending Aunt Karen's annual gathering. "We could make it smaller, more personal," she proposed tentatively. "Invite people based on whether we actually enjoy their company, not family obligation." The suggestion represented significant growth, prioritizing authentic connection over status and appearance. Christmas brought another indicator of change when Mom suggested we redirect some of our usual gift budget towards supporting the local food bank I'd partnered with for Halloween. The community really came through for our family when we needed them, she acknowledged. It feels right to give back. Planning for the following year's Halloween began in January, not as a reaction to exclusion this time, but as a proactive community initiative. The property owners who had lent us the barn offered it again, impressed by how respectfully we had treated their space. Casey and I co-chaired the planning committee, incorporating more neighborhood involvement from the beginning. We're thinking bigger this year, I explained during the first community meeting. Multiple nights, expanded scare zones, and a dedicated children's area for younger kids. Dad volunteered to head the technical committee, leveraging his previously untapped talent for special effects. Mom, after initial hesitation, joined the fundraising team, applying her organizational skills toward a positive purpose. The most profound healing came not from grand gestures, but from small, consistent changes. Mom asking about my interests with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. Dad actively participating in family decisions rather than deferring to keep peace. Family movie nights where everyone's preferences were considered equally. During a spring cleaning session, I discovered the note Dad had left with my Halloween candy the previous fall. Proud of you always. What had once seemed like an insufficient gesture now represented the beginning of a more authentic relationship. I pinned it to my bulletin board as a reminder of how far we had come. 1 year after the Arizona incident, as we now sometimes jokingly called it, our family gathered at the barn for the second annual community Halloween event. The expanded 3-night festival had become a legitimate local attraction, complete with corporate sponsors, professional security, and features in regional tourism publications. Standing at the entrance in my new costume, a historically accurate plague doctor that had taken months to research and create, I watched families stream in with excitement. My parents worked their respective stations with genuine enthusiasm. Lucas and Emma performed their expanded roles with theatrical flair, and community members who had become friends through this shared project created an atmosphere of collective accomplishment. Mom approached during a quiet moment, her witch costume both elegant and playful. I was just thinking about last year, she said tentatively. How close we came to missing all this because of my misplaced priorities. We can't change the past, I replied, wisdom born from a year of processing hurt and healing, but we get to choose what traditions we build going forward. She nodded, unexpected tears glistening in her eyes. I choose this, she said simply, gesturing to the vibrant community celebration surrounding us. I choose our family, the real one, not the picture-perfect version I thought we needed to be. The healing wasn't complete, it might never be entirely finished. But standing there amid the joyful chaos of an event, born from pain and transformed into purpose, I understood something profound. Sometimes betrayal becomes the catalyst for building something more authentic than what was lost. Our family wasn't perfect. We still struggled with old patterns and new challenges. But we were learning to prioritize substance over appearance, authentic connection over social performance, and most importantly, to make space for every family member's voice even when those voices said uncomfortable truths. The Halloween tradition we created from betrayal had become something more valuable than the one we lost, a reminder that sometimes our greatest strengths emerge from our deepest wounds. Have you ever experienced a family betrayal that led to unexpected growth, or found yourself creating new traditions after old ones were taken away? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Don't forget to like this video if my story resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life journeys through family challenges, and share with someone who might be facing their own version of exclusion right now. Remember that sometimes our most painful experiences become the foundation for our greatest strengths. Thank you for listening to my story, and may your own Halloween traditions bring genuine connection rather than surface perfection.